In the last episode, I built a tavern for some idiots that gave me a quest to build them an entire mining town. I also tried to squeeze in a hot cocoa factory in here as well, and failed. So today I'm going to get that hot cocoa flowing, as well as producing a brand new type of food so I can keep these idiots fed. But before I do any of that, it's about time I got my mine shaft sorted out, or at least some of the things in here decorated. My wither skeleton farm looks great up here, but downstairs leaves a lot to be desired. It's very drippy, it's very plain, it's very boring. And so is the wood farm through here. This all needs decorating too. So starting underneath the wither skeleton farm, I don't have an awful lot of headspace in here to deal with all of these drips. There's water flowing directly on the ceiling blocks. And in order to stop drips, what you normally need to do is add a second layer of blocks, which means I won't have much head height in here at all, and it means it's going to interfere with all of these things we've got. So I've got another idea. As part of the Copycats Plus mod, we get access to these copycat boards, which you can place pretty much anywhere, and then you can decorate with whatever you want. And I'm hoping that that's enough to stop the drips, and it looks like we're getting no drips there. But I don't want them all made out of tuff. What I do want this to look like is a little bit like what we got going on in here with the roof all caved in and broken. But of course that's not going to work here because of the way the ceiling is. So I think what I might have to do is just drop this entire area down a few blocks. But in order to do that, I'm going to need to know the range of these spawners, because when I'm stood in there, I don't want to be too far away for the spawners to activate. But these are nether spawners from the better nether mod, and they have a 20 block radius instead of 16. So that should give me a little bit more room to play with. And by using the mini HUD mod to set up a shape that's based around that spawner, I can actually add the radius here to see exactly how far away I can be. And it's quite a good distance. So if I stand all the way over here and look at those spawners, they should be deactivated, but if I go inside here, there you go, they're activated. And that should mean I've got a whole bunch of room down here to play with, because yeah, that sphere doesn't stop till all the way over there. And if I dig down a little bit, we've got all the way to this point here. So I got to work digging out the floor down to the point where I could still stand in there and activate the spawners, which meant that everything else was way too high up to access. So I began reshaping the room, moving everything down to a level I could access. Decorating the floor was as simple as throwing in a few stone block variants from the chipped mob, keeping more of the rough looking blocks around the edges and throwing in some chipped gravel variants near in the centre. Once that was in, I dug out a new room for the villagers, making trading a little easier while keeping them out of the way. And then it was time for the ceiling. I kept it simple, using cobble and andesite with some stairs, slabs and walls thrown about to make the room feel as if it had been carved out or maybe even blasted out from inside the mine shaft. And all that was left to do was to tidy up the walls with some dark oak logs and andesite casing, fix the stairs and finish off with a few cobble layers and a little trick for the enchanting setup, which I'll get into later. With the wither farm room done, I moved over to the wood farm, following a similar process. I started by digging out the walls, added in stripped dark oak log supports with andesite casing in between. Next came the floor made of stone and gravel variants, following the theme of the previous areas, and then I threw in a bunch of cobble and andesite into the hole in the back wall to make this room feel like it's less structured and actually part of an underground mine shaft. Next I mined up into the ceiling, carving out a rough dome shape, and decorated that with more cobble and andesite again to make this room feel like it had been blasted out originally. Then was time to work on the stairs which lead down from the main mine shaft. I widened up the entrance, moving the stairs over a block so I could add in a wall between the stairs and the main part of the room to help give it some structure. And finally it was time to tidy up the area below the catwalk where the wood farm mechanics are. I added in a whole bunch more dark oak supports, roughed up the walls again, and laid down a very familiar feeling floor. And there we go. Everything feels a whole bunch more spacious now. We've got this big old room that's been moved down significantly, so we've got a nice ceiling in, we've got our XP tank and our items just like we did before. We've even got room for all of these villagers over here and space for another one as well. So I'm sure we'll find another one at some point. The enchantment system has been pushed back, and now we've got the pipe that was giving us XP. Instead of being over here, it's in the floor. So when I'm standing here, I can turn that on. I can enchant all of my stuff as I need to, and then I can turn it off again, and then that's going to stop pouring out of there. So that's very useful. And as you can see behind me, we got a big old blank wall that I've got room to put more machines and things in, because my workshop hasn't got everything I need. And speaking of workshops, I haven't done anything in here at all, but through at the wood farm, this is looking a whole bunch better as well. Now, I did want to have cross beams going over here like we have in the other rooms, just to sort of... Oh. Wow. Yeah, they've gone. Like these ones in here. And the reason these ones have gone is because when the trees grow and the leaves attach to the wood, and then the tree farm chops down the trees, it removes any logs attached to the leaves as well. And I found that out the hard way, which meant I lost all of this wood, and I didn't realise I'd lost all of this wood as well. So I suppose I need to put all this back in again. There we go, that's a little bit better. So yeah, the tree farm then. This is still working absolutely fine. I've decorated down there with a whole bunch of pillars and supports to hold up the walls around it. I've hidden the redstone that was controlling this thing underneath this little area here because we don't need to see it. And I've added a whole bunch of these sort of cobblestone layers and things around just to disguise a few of the other bits down here as well. Through here, I've added in a little ladder that allows you to get up and down from the top floor to the bottom floor nice and easily. I've even decorated the stairs that lead down into here, although I have purposely left this top bit completely undone because we're going to be decorating the main part of this mine shaft in another episode when we expand it significantly that way and dig a big old hole in the ground. Because of course this wouldn't be a very good mining town if it didn't have a big old mine that provided a whole bunch of things. Speaking of providing a whole bunch of things, it's about time I got to providing these idiots with some sort of food and that cocoa that I was talking about. Which brings me on to my plans for the food production facility. I've spent a whole bunch of time in a creative copy of this world trying to come up with something that I thought would be good for a food production facility, and something that was in keeping with our current design and something in keeping with the pictures that have given me the inspiration for this area. And whilst I think this little thing down here could work quite well, I don't think it really fits in. So I started again, this time drawing direct inspiration from one of the photos, and I've come up with this, which to me doesn't really look like a food production facility, more of like a schoolhouse or something like that, and it certainly doesn't fit in with the tavern. And yeah, there's one on this side as well that's a lot smaller. I kind of like the idea of this layout with the long building with things sticking out the front of it, but I think the mangrove is too much of a stark contrast to our tavern, and I think it's just way too big. So back on the server, that means I'm going to be totally winging it, but it does give me an opportunity to talk you guys through my building process rather than just doing a big old time lapse like I would normally do. That does mean, though, the first thing I'm going to have to do is go and gather a whole bunch of materials that are similar to this so that it actually fits in with what we've already got. And then I need to think about where we're going to actually build it. My original plan was to build it here, but that really isn't a great deal of space, and unless I dig out an absolutely huge chunk of this mountainside, realistically it's not going to fit. Unless I move my mining tunnel entrance significantly further this way, which I am quite tempted to do. Although I think it would be easier just to push this wall back a long way here and have it at this point, like I did on the second creative copy of the world. So let's go get some materials, come up with a build palette, and see what I can do. Now I know what you're thinking, you've watched a whole bunch of this video already and you're not even subscribed. And we've still got a whole bunch of building to do and a big old create factory too. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. And like the video too, because that really helps me out. Well, I've spent a little bit of time gathering up some resources, and this is the build palette, which is probably not the most exciting build palette in the world, so I guess it's going to come down to shape more than texture. We've got a bunch of different horizontal types of spruce wood, all from the chipped mod, and some vertical ones as well for the walls. We've also got some dark oak, both stripped and not stripped, and we've got some stacked dark oak planks, which we've used for things like those beams over there. We've also got two different types of spruce fences, the spruce roofs from McCaw's mod, and the windows as well, which are made from diorite. And then of course we've got a few different copycat types of panel to just add a little texture and variation to the build. Now we are going to be building it over here, which will mean we're going to have to demolish quite a bit of that landscape later on, but we're going to start by just building out a template of a box and then adding some details to it. And I've decided, a little bit like our tavern, I am going to have it elevated slightly off the ground, although probably not quite as much as this one, because I do like that height variation and I like the fact that there's detail underneath it as well. So I think we'll probably start with the first corner maybe around about at this point here, and we'll come all the way down along here, a nice long building to around about there, I think. Okay, shortening this down slightly, the whole thing is now 29 blocks long, and that's good because I like my buildings to be odd number lengths, because that way it's much easier to add single wide doors, and I just find the whole things fit together a lot better. So now we need to determine how far we're going to go back, and to that point there, that's 15 blocks wide. And I think that's probably going to be a good depth for this. So I guess the first thing I should do is clear out a whole bunch of space where this is going to be. So there we go, we've now got a basic shape for our building. It's time we got in the bottom layer. And the bottom layer is mainly going to be using the spruce planks, and I'm going to make sure the majority of it is these stacked ones because I like the look of these towards the edge. And then I'm going to just drop a few of these polished ones in between around these because I think they blend nicely together. And then to fill in the center, I'm going to use the trowel in order to basically randomize these. So we've got 2 stacks of spruce planks, 2 stacks of smooth spruce planks, and then just 1 stack of stacked and polished ones. And that way the majority will be the spruce planky ones, and then we'll only get a few of the stacked and polished variants. And now that they're all in, that gives us a nice big platform to start building our building. Now I am going to want to walkway around the edge a little bit like what we've got going on out here, so the building's not going to take up that full space, and I'm going to mark out the corners with these stripped dark oak logs. So I think we'll probably have the stairs coming up around about this point here, so I'm actually going to inset these slightly so we've got a sort of shallower area to come into. A little bit like that doorway there. We'll have a little area sticking out the back here, and then a much bigger working area over here. And in fact, I'm thinking I might want this platform just to go back a little bit more so we've got a bit more room for that. Or I could just sacrifice the walkway around the back. So that's going to be the main shape of our building there. We've got a little bit to the side. We've got plenty of platform around the outside to be walking on around the front and down that side. But I kind of want this front section to stick out a little bit as well. So I'm thinking if I throw another one of those down around that point there and bring this forward, and throw another one of those down around about there and bring that forward, then we can have like a sticky outy bit at the front here. So now all I got to do is take each one of these up 5 blocks. And now these are all the same height. I need to join them together. So that's going to be the foundation of our first floor, or the ground floor should I say. Now in this building, every time there was a dark oak pillar, we had these edge stripped spruce logs next to it, and that just sort of blends between the harsh darkness there and the warmer spruce planks there. That's exactly what I'm going to add in here, just on the sides of each one of these. I'm not going to put them in there because that gap's too small. And the next thing to do is just basically fill up the gaps with the normal vertical spruce planks and the thin spruce planks, and then just the odd bit of polished spruce in there as well in places. And this is another good opportunity to use the trowel, but this time I'm going to have 3 stacks of vertical spruce planks, 2 of the thin stuff and just 1 of the polished one, and that way we get the majority of the vertical spruce planks, and then the other 2 are just sort of filling in the gaps. Now at this point obviously I haven't taken into account any space for windows or doors. I've just put walls in, and now we don't have a walkway that comes around the front here either. So let's first of all get a door on this, and I'm going to put that just there. Back in the storage room I'm going to grab myself some spruce bridge stairs, not that I've got many, so I'm going to have to craft a few more of those. And I'm going to throw these in around about this point here. There we go, now we've got some stairs up. So at this point I might as well start going and putting this fence around the outside, although it might be temporary because we might end up moving things around. And I do need to consider this point here, unless we're going to have that just come flush up to the front of the platform, but I don't think we are. Now I'm going to start bringing this out a couple of blocks at the front, and we'll bring that all the way to this end point here. So the next part of the plan is to elevate to the next level, and I want most of this going up to the next level, but I want to keep that bit lower down. And yes, that's just a case of doing these another 5, and again just joining them together. Now with this point at the front, I actually want to experiment bringing this out another block forward and then going up, just to give it a little bit more depth at the very front at the top. Something like that. Again, I'm going to put the edge strip spruce in between. Now similarly to how we've got this Fox Mine Tavern bit at the front here, I kind of want to mimic that on this front piece here. So I think we're going to have to remove a few of these middle blocks and just have that go up a couple of blocks in the middle, which of course means filling everything in with the vertical spruce planks now. That might work. We'll have to see how it looks once we've got the roof on. But before we get to the roof, I'm going to do something similar to what we've got going on here with the Macaw's roofs, and then just add those onto the building around these points here. So before I start putting in any decoration like windows and all that sort of good stuff, I think we should look at the roof. This one I used a combination of slabs and copycat slabs in order to create this dark oak roof here, and I want to do something similar. Now it wouldn't be too difficult to come across this way and do a roof a little bit like this, coming up towards the middle, something like that maybe going across. But if we went this way instead, And then when we got to this bit here, this is going to be separated because that's sort of a flat face against it. So I think I prefer to go that way. Now, because the chipped mod doesn't do slabs, we're going to have to make use of an absolute ton of copycat slabs in this in order to actually get the shape we want. But copycat slabs are a pain because they don't always face downwards, they can also go vertically. So the easiest thing to do is just fill in the entire thing with dark oak slabs and then just replace the ones that you want with the copycat slabs once that you've got it all in. And to deal with the edges, to give this a bit of a lip, we're going to be using the copycat steps, just like that. And then when we get to these corners, we need to use the copycat bites. And that's the roof pretty much in, other than the texture. Which means now it's time to come and tear bits of it out and throw in these copycat slabs. And I'm basically going to do this as random as possible, rather than trying to figure out which parts of the roof would be more damp or more worn and things like that. Which you can do, but realistically, not many people are ever going to see the roof. And that's all the copycat panels in, so now I'm just going to spam some of these polished dark oak planks, some brick bond dark oak planks, which are very similar, but they just have a little bit more colour in them. And then some good old stacked dark oak planks, because these blend in really nicely. I love these planks. And there we go, that's the roof pretty much done. For the lower roof, I'm going to do exactly what we've just done up there, starting with just putting in the slabs, and then just smashing a few holes in it and throwing in the copycat slabs instead. We just need to add that lip around the edge, just like on the other one. And that works on all of the edges apart from this bit here where we've got this sloped roof. Now, I could either get rid of the sloped roof and continue that down there, which does look okay, but I think I prefer the sloped roof there instead. It's a bit weird looking, but it'll do. So now that we've got the main shape of our building in, and of what an interestingly strange looking building it is, it's time we put in some decoration. I think I'm going to start with windows. I like Linux, I don't care. So for the windows, we're going to be using these diorite windows, and I think it's just going to be a case of throwing them in where I think they might fit. So we'll have one there, and if you place these from the inside, they will open outwards. Now, of course, there's going to be production and things going on in here, so no doubt a lot of the walls are going to be blocked by machines and power and things, so I'm not 100% sure where all the windows are going to end up being, but I'm going to just spam a whole bunch in for now, and then we'll see what happens later on. And then I like to go around and just open a few, just to make it look like this building is used and lived in. And of course, from the outside, they look okay, but they do need more to make them fit like they're actually part of the building. And for me, that's just using these copycat steps with the stacked spruce logs to give them a bit of a windowsill. And often, if there's room above, I'll put in some of these copycat slices with the dark oak stack logs just to give them a little bit of definition at the top as well. For the doorways, I always like to use these stacked spruce planks above the door because I think that just finishes off the little hole, but we're not worried about what type of door we're having until a little bit later on. What I will do, however, is throw on a few flower boxes, and I do like to leave the odd one with a gap if there's more than one spot. So like these ones here, I might leave a gap there and keep those two there, and then we'll just throw in a few of these lily of the valleys and maybe the odd daisy here and there. I don't want to overfill these. I don't want it to feel like there's just millions of flowers all over the building. Some of the flower boxes I'll just leave totally blank, and some I'll stick two in and none in the other one, and that does help the ground floor look a whole lot better. But the underside of these roofs look rubbish, so to fix that, we're going to use a whole bunch more of these copycat steps, and I'm just going to basically bring out some beams from the building. However, this is where these little bits here cause a problem, because I can't put a beam there because they're in the way. Another thing that we did on that building over there is add some more of these spruce horse fences in order to add some support for the roof. And we don't want to overdo this, but we do want to make sure it's got plenty of support. I'd even get away with one just there. There we go. I don't think that looks too bad. Now at the back, I'm actually going to extend this platform another couple of blocks just so that I can continue the walkway around the outside, and that way we can have these fences coming all the way around the building, and I can throw in a little bit more support for the roof from these fences. Well, that probably means this terrain's going to have to fall back another couple of blocks as well, but we'll worry about that later on. I don't think that's looking too bad at all so far. So that must mean it's time for the upstairs windows. And exactly the same rules apply here. Now, I am tempted to have a big window there, but that's going to make it tricky to then add a big old sign in, so I'm not sure about that. We'll leave that till later on to decide that, but I will throw in these copycat slices above the windows like we did downstairs, and then no doubt end up having to remove them all. For a little bit more external decoration, I'm going to throw in some of these wall lanterns, and the last thing to do in terms of external decoration is a little bit of glow lichen and some of this surface moss, but I don't want to go too crazy because it really does stand out on the spruce. We just want a few bits here and there, just because those greens really do stick out a lot. That's already way too vivid in this area here. The other thing I can do is turn some brown mushrooms into brown wall mushrooms. And then we can put that sort of around where the moss and stuff is to just make it look like it is actually like a little bit damp and the stuff growing on it. And that does help quite significantly, although I think I might have overdone it again round here. Yeah, that's a bit better. I'm also going to use these around the front of all of this as well, a little bit more sparingly. And all of this will blend in a whole bunch better once we've got the floor underneath this done, because at the moment this is all massively contrasting with this bright green grass. But when it's all podzol and coarse dirt and gravel and stuff like that, you can see it just blends in a whole bunch better. Now I am going to use some red mushrooms, but not many at all, because these really do stand out. And again, a little bit of glow lichen and some moss. So in terms of external decoration, that just leaves us with the sign that we need and the floor underneath, as well as this terrain at the back sorting out. And I can't really do the sign until I know exactly what food we're going to be producing in here. So I'm going to concentrate on the floor and the area around this and get all of that looking pretty much exactly like this, which is just coarse dirt, leaves, podzol, gravel variants, and a little bit of path with a whole bunch of mushrooms and things. And I don't think you need to see me place that block by block, so time lapse, just a quick one maybe. And there we go. That blends in a whole bunch better than it did before, and I think this entire thing is starting to come together. The back looks less like a cliff face now and actually kind of slopes down naturally, and underneath, just like last time, we got a whole bunch of leaves, barrels, mushrooms and all sorts of stuff like that, just to make it all feel messy and damp and, well, like it's had no light on it because there's a building on top, so all the grass has died. So in terms of this building now, we're pretty much there on the outside. All I want to do is just add a couple of maybe benches or barrels or something along this edge here, and then we need to figure out how we're going to get power in there so we can start producing what we're going to be producing. And speaking of what we're going to be producing, we of course still need to sort out the hot cocoa system and come up with a whole new type of food that we haven't produced before. And I think it would make sense for the power to probably come into the back of the building, maybe around about here somewhere. So if we just dig a hole there and knock ourselves down into the ground and dig down a little bit, hopefully we won't be too far away from that hole I've just been digging. Oh, not too far away at all. So all I need to do is extend this chain drive down a little bit and just run a whole bunch of shaft all the way along here. Then we just need a gearbox to turn the corner, and then we can continue that down this little bit here, and then we just need a shaft coming all the way up here. And now we have power. So now we've got power, we can decide exactly what food we're going to be making in here. And this is going to be a chocolate factory. That's right, we're going to be making chocolate pie. This chocolate pie, to be specific, which requires cocoa beans, milk, sugar, and pie crust. And pie crust is just more milk with wheat. So we're going to need to produce a whole bunch of things in here in order to do that. And the hot cocoa too. So I suppose I better go and get my honey tank from underneath that building, bring it in here, and start putting together some sort of factory layout. So I'm going to be planning this out in a creative copy of the world from a download that I literally just taken. So it's got everything in here that I just put in here. So these are the items that we're going to need to produce. We're going to need to produce the hot cocoa, we're going to need to produce the pie crust, and we're going to need to produce the chocolate pie. In order to make the hot cocoa, we're going to need milk, sugar, cocoa beans, and empty bottles in a mixer with a blaze burner. To make the pie crust, we need wheat and milk in a crafter. And to make the chocolate pie, we need a whole bunch of cocoa, milk, sugar, and pie crusts in another auto crafter. And all of that should be relatively simple, but it does require a whole bunch of different components in order to bring it all together. So we'll start here, which is our wheat farm. All we've got going down here is a piece of rich soil with some wheat on it. If I turn this on, that's going to get bone meal from our bone meal supply. The harvester's going to harvest it. The wheat, the seeds, and the straw is going to go in there, and it's all going to get voided off when we've got an excess, but that wheat will then be used in order to make the pie crust. Next to that, just like we saw in the last episode, we've got our cocoa bean farm, which is exactly the same thing. A dispenser dispensing bone meal onto a cocoa bean. The harvester harvests it, and it puts it in there, which will then get taken off and put wherever we need it for the other ingredients. Next, we've got a little system to turn honey into sugar, and all we need to do is pump honey into a spout, put empty bottles onto a bell belt, the spouts get filled with honey, they go into an autocrafter and get turned into empty glass bottles and sugar. So that's nice and easy. And then we've got our cow milker. All we need to do is fill that with a few empty bottles. That's going to milk the cow. So that's all of our main ingredients sorted out. Then we're going to need to make the hot cocoa, which looks a little bit crazy, but this is just a system that's feeding out the items that we need to make the hot cocoa. One of these arms is putting it in there. The other one's getting the coal to light the blaze burner. That's just getting mixed together and it's going into here. You're in creative. Well, I know this is a test world, mate. I know it looks exactly the same as the other world, but it's a download. Look, I'll show you. Single player, episode 12, food planning. There we go. But if I want to go back on the world, I come out of that. I go to multiplayer. I go to my server. Here I am on the server. Not in creative mode, in the same place that we was without all that stuff outside. Okay, so in that little area there, I have added in our storage system. We've got a couple of spaces left for some items that I've probably forgotten about. And behind that, although there's no way to get into it at the moment, I have left space so that we've got room for things like threshold switches and whatnot, just in case we want to be able to automate turning any of these things on and off. So I guess it would probably be a good idea to get rid of this window, seeing though it's pretty much useless now, and just throw a door in down here somewhere so that we can get in behind it. Next, I'm going to add in the wheat farm, which means we need our wheat seeds there. We don't need water for the rich soil farmland because we're going to be bone mealing it. So we'll just stick a dispenser on there, dig a little bit of a hole in the floor here to put a redstone block there, put some track down there, throw in our little minecart contraption on lock rotation. And we made pretty much what we need in the last episode for this, although I am going to have to change it slightly because the harvester needs to stick out an extra block because the minecart can't bounce off the rich soil. It has to bounce off a solid block. We have another block behind that. We have a belt coming in front, but before I do that, I need to actually make this a contraption. And I'm just about out of glue, but there's something I can do about that. So that brings me back to this. I don't need to glue that to that because they automatically glue themselves, so I just glue those there. Pop a redstone torch down there, and then there we go. Now we've got a contraption that's just going to bounce backwards and forwards forever. So let's get our little belt in. We need a chute coming onto that belt there, and then another chute coming up the back there. And that's where our second interface is going to be going, so they can connect together. We need another chute there, and that's going to need linking to the storage system to get the bone meal out of here and into there. And instead of using oak trim for this storage system, I'm going to be using spruce trim because it's going to fit in a bit better, and we need some along here for our storage interfaces. Just a few of these along the bottom here like this should do it. Just need to connect it over to there. Ow, ow, ow. And there we go, that's all connected now. So to get the bone meal out of there and into there, we're going to need to put an interface there. But if I do that, we're not going to get the right items out. It's just going to pull everything out of the storage system. So I actually need to replace that with the smart chute, just like that. And then I can filter that for bone meal, put the interface there. And now you can see it's putting bone meal in there. Amazing. We need 3 more of these interfaces along here. And in fact, we don't even need 3 because we only need 1. And we can have the funnel going in there. And there we go, that's our wheat system in place. There's no redstone going to that dispenser yet, but we'll worry about that later. So now it's time for sugar, and that means putting this thing down yet again. Pop in a pump on there, a little spout there, have some belt just there like that. We need a storage interface just here, and we need another one coming up the back. Just there. We also need a mechanical crafter on there, a funnel coming out of there, filtered for glass bottles, and of course a funnel going into the crafter. And then just this item interface needs to be connected to our storage network, so we can just connect those across there. And now we just need power. It's all going backwards. Oh jeez, we're making a mess. I should probably put a speed controller in so I can get everything going the right way. And there we go. Now we're producing sugar. And now that's that little farm complete. Moving things on a little bit, I've started to put the cocoa bean farm together, but now I've got a bit of a problem because before we had a box with bone meal in it on here, meaning I didn't need a smart chute to put the items from the bone meal box into the dispenser. But now if I was to put one of these interfaces up there, that hopper's literally going to bring everything out of our storage system and put it in that dispenser, and that's not going to be very good for us. So I need to rearrange this a little bit in order to make that work better. But I got to bear in mind that our ceiling level is here, so I can't really go any higher than that. So I think instead of having the dispenser there, we'll just pop it on the block behind there, throw in a smart chute above it, filtered for bone meal again, and then we can just put a storage interface on top of that. And now all I need to do is link those together, and that should start pulling bone meal out of there and putting it into that dispenser. It is. So again, apart from a little bit of redstone to fire the dispenser, that's that little section complete, which means the entire downstairs of this little room is done for now, which means I'm going to put the floor in up here now. Yeah, I may have a bit just put myself inside some crushing wheels by mistake. Haven't died in ages. Can't believe that happened. I hope none of my armors end up being crushed in those crushing wheels. Hopefully it's all gone inside my grave safely. All I wanted to do was make some brass casing. But no, I just had to come and stand on a crushing wheel because I'm a moron. Yes. I got it all back. Oh, that's good. Anyway, we've got some stairs and now we've got an upstairs, and this has got a ceiling too. So it's about time we started working on our hot cocoa machine. So for this one, we're going to start with a bunch of this storage trim along the back here. We're going to put another one just there. We're going to have some depots running along there and another one there. We need a blaze burner with a mixer on top of it just there. And then we need a bunch of these storage interfaces along there like that. We need another one there, and then we need some of this trim bringing around here so we can put one there. That can just have a normal funnel going into it because that's going to take the hot cocoa out. This is going to be bringing coal out, and these are for all of the other ingredients, which of course one of them being milk, which we haven't got yet, but I can take some cocoa beans and some sugar and some empty bottles, yeah, and some coal, and I can get all of the other filters set up. And we need 2 cocoa beans, whereas everything else just needs 1. So let's just craft up a quick bucket and milk the cow so that we can set that last filter. There we go. And then we just need the mechanical arms. So we'll have one picking up from there and deposited in there. And then the other one is going to pick up from all of these depots and then deposit into there. And they can both sit up there like that. Now all this needs is power and connecting to the storage system. And there we go. We have a hot cocoa processing machine that should start any second. Oh, that needs to be on forced round robin. It just needs the cocoa. Oh, it's got honey Where's my cocoa filter? We don't want honey bottles, you moron. That's what we need. Now it's mixing, and we should be getting our first hot cocoa coming through. There it is. It's already gone into the system. It should have come down here into our storage drawers. There it is. Hot cocoa. We've got 2 more things to do. We need a cow milker, and then just all of the crafters. While we're down here, a quick honey check shows that we are almost out of honey, but that has provided us over 1,000 sugar so far, so that's not too bad. And bearing in mind, we're really not going to need a great deal of these pies. But yeah, okay, right, cow milker. Let's do this. In order to keep it flush with that one, we're going to start with 4 little bits of storage trim just there like that. We need another simple storage interface there. We also need one there and one there. But now we've got another problem like we did on the cocoa farm. In the test world, this was a box with empty buckets, which meant we didn't need a filter on the hopper in order to get those out into the deployer. But because the storage system is downstairs, that means we need some way of filtering what's going to come through here into the deployer. And whilst we could put a filter on the deployer, that's not going to stop the hopper filling up with everything else. So I need a new way of filling up the deployer. What deployer? Wait a minute. This deployer. And I'm going to fix it the lazy way by just putting the storage system into the ceiling with a smart chute below it, and that just needs filtering for empty buckets, which actually means we don't need this gap here anymore. I can actually have those next to each other, and now we just need the cow, and that's just a case of making a little cage for the cow so he can be free range, of course. Free range in this tiny cage. He can roam about in there as much as he wants, as far as he can go. What a lucky cow. And now we've got a little hole to stick him in, so let's grab the cow, put the cow in the hole. Again, we just need power and to connect this to the storage system. Then we just need some shaft going across there, and that should all be good to go. We just need empty buckets in the system. I've got a few on me, so let's go and stick those in there and see if we start getting milk. There we go. Now we're getting milk. Free milk, guys. It's all coming through. Here it is, going into the system. Nice. So now we're farming absolutely everything we need. We just need to start crafting everything together. Oh, and do the redstone for these, otherwise we're not going to have any wheat to actually produce anything with. So let's stick a redstone link on there. We'll stick another one on there. Let's invert those. This one can be cocoa bean bone meal. This one can be wheat and bone meal. Now we can make a clock with these redstone pulse repeaters or extenders. And all you do is just connect those at each side and then just invert one of those and you've got a permanent clock. And then we could just attach those two redstone links that we want and that's going to fire those. But then that means these are both going to be activated on the same circuit, which I guess is okay. It doesn't really matter. In which case, we don't need to have individual filters on these redstone links. We might as well just label both of these hot cocoa bone meal because this is the hot cocoa farm. And then we just need on one of these hot cocoa and bone meal and get rid of that one. And now these should both be being bone meal. They are, that's working. And this one's working. So it's auto crafting time. Where's all my milk gone? Why have I got no milk in the storage system and no buckets at all? What? We're not losing any. Where's my milk gone? Okay, I'll put some more buckets in there. They go through, it gets milked, and they're just disappearing instantly. Where are they going? We got 3 out of that. Where'd the other ones go? And now they're going again. Where are they going? Yeah, another one's just got... What? And is that one going to disappear? Yep. What? Oh, and they never powered this belt, so this is just filling up with all of that stuff. I should probably power this belt. Well, that's the belt powered now. That's a bit better. But what's happening to my milk? Of course, it's getting turned into hot cocoa. But I thought we would get the buckets back. I can't believe this system eats buckets. Just what? That can't be right. I'm not having an iron farm just to make hot cocoa. That's ridiculous. It ate all my... What? In that case, we're going to have to do it this way, which means we've got to actually produce the chocolate instead. And that's a case of having all sorts of pipes and tanks and... Oh, jeez, this is going to be complicated. I wasn't prepared to go down this rabbit hole, but I've got no choice. So that means literally smashing this entire thing to bits that I've made upstairs and starting again. You suck. I can't believe that. I can't get out... What? So after a whole bunch of jiggery-pokery, we now have a chocolate liquid machine. The cow's been moved from this end of the room over to there, and there's a whole bunch of complicatedness going on behind there that I'll try and show you, but it's very difficult because there's a whole bunch of power and gears and stuff like that. Basically, the buckets of milk come out of here and go onto an item drain. They get drained out, the empty buckets go back in so that the cow can be milked again, and the milk comes out of this pipe here and into this tank. That then gets fed through this pump into this basin. Behind there we've got some depots with sugar, cocoa beans and coal on. This mechanical arm is feeding the coal into the blaze burner. The other one's getting the other ingredients and that turns this milk into chocolate, which then goes through this smart pump to make sure we're not just pumping the milk straight out, through this pipe, through that pump and into here where we're now creating chocolate. And from that, life's a whole bunch easier. To make the chocolate pie, we no longer need a big old crafting grid like this. We can literally just pump chocolate straight into a pie crust. And similarly, the hot cocoa can just be pumped straight into glass bottles. So all we've got to do now is produce some pie crust. And that's just going to be an auto crafter setup like this. Or we could mix wheat flour and do it. Huh, that's a lot cheaper. Okay, wheat flour, a mill and wheat. We can do this. And there we go. We're now milling down the wheat into wheat flour. And again, this only needs to come out one at a time. There's no point in it going any faster than that. So we just need to mix it all up. So we just need some more milk and the wheat flour into another mixer. We've already got milk over here, so we might as well just have that running alongside this. And I feel like this is all about to get very messy, but I'm going to do my best to make it not quite so messy. We'll have an andesite funnel going in there, and then we just need one coming out of here with the wheat flour. So let's just pop that on there, put that on there, spin that round, and I believe it needs 3 at a time. And that just means we need one more mechanical arm to take from there, shove in there, and we can put that there. So now we should start producing pie crusts with a bit of luck. Yep, there we go. We're producing everything we need. Now all we need in here is literally a couple of squirting stations. So I'm hoping that if I put a pump coming out of the chocolate there with a spout there and a spout there, I can then put a pipe between and that'll pump the chocolate all the way through into that one as well as that one. And then underneath those, we're going to have a couple of temporary blocks with a depot on each one. Behind those depots, we're going to have some more storage interfaces. One of them is going to be filtered for glass bottles. The other one is going to be filtered for pie crusts. And then we just need to get the items out of those and back into the storage system. And we could probably do that by removing those, digging a little bit of a hole in the floor here. Put in another one of those there, another one of those there. And then we just need a couple of smart chutes underneath there, and they're going to need filtering as well. Although I haven't got any pie to use that as a filter, but we have got plenty of these. So I can filter that one at least. And then once we've got some pie, I can filter that one. So for now, I'll just remove that storage chute, and then we just need to get power to this pump. How hard could it be? What could possibly go wrong? Where are we going to get power from? Let's bring that there. Put a vertical gearbox in there. Now that's that pumping. Is it going to pump all the way across? It's not. That sucks. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to do some more digging. And we'll just move it all one block across. And with it all one block across, what I can now do is bring the pipes out round the back instead like this, bring that over to there, and then we just need to connect. Whoa, I'm falling everywhere. That down to the pump by putting that there, and putting that there, and hopefully that's then going to push it through everything. Spin it round and find out. That one's getting chocolate. There we go. Now they've both got chocolate. Excellent. So literally all I need to do now is just to connect this storage system to the other storage systems. There we go. Just like that. And now that should start producing, if I flip that round, hot cocoa. It is. This one should start producing. Here we go. Chocolate pie. We got some. I just need to stop that a second. Put that there. Put one of those in there. No, not on the floor. In there, you moron. And then put that depot back on top. There we go. And now we've got some chocolate pie on the floor. Oh, lovely. And there we go. We're now producing chocolate pies and hot cocoa. We have added everything in here we need. It's all working 100%. It's a little untidy, but other than that, it's working great. So other than a little bit of tidying up, all I need now is an on-off switch, which I've added to the wall with the redstone link. If I flick that, the entire thing should turn off, and that's because I've just thrown a clutch down here with the same filters on, so we can save ourselves a whole bunch of power when we need to. I've also spent a little tiny bit of time up here just trying to tidy this up as much as possible, and now it doesn't look too bad. We've got everything going on. We've even got this little access corridor here to get to the back of everything. And I think that all looks great and works great as well. And now it's time to do something similar down here, but before I do that, there's one thing that this building's missing, and that's doors. We've got no doors at all. We've got a bunch of doors in here. All I need to do is, we only need 2 of them, put that on the chipped workbench and decide what door we want. And I think I'm going to go with the panelled spruce door for this one. So we can have one door just there. Lovely. And we'll have the other one on our little access area here, just there. So a few minutes later, and I have added in a whole bunch of andesite casing around here as walls for all of these machines, and I think it feels and looks a whole bunch better. We've still got plenty of room to access everything we need. We've got a little access point here for our speed controller. We've got another one here to get to the redstone. And upstairs is exactly the same as it was, but there's a little door over here now so we can get into this bit. So there we go, a fully functional 100% working chocolate factory, except for one thing. And that one thing is the big old sign on the front of here, which I don't know what it needs to look like because I don't know what name it needs. Only you... Wow. Thanks, Armour. Only you guys can tell me that, so comments please down below for a name for this chocolate factory. Something short and simple like that, please. So all I got left to do is take a handful of these drinks, a handful of these chocolate pies, and go and feed the idiots. Here you go, guys. Got some chocolate pie for you.
Is it beer?
No, it's chocolate pie, mate. You don't want this wheat beer here anymore. Let's get rid of that. There you go. Have some hot can't put it down. Have some hot cocoa. What about you guys? Anyone want some chocolate pie? There's not much space here. Let's move this plate a second. There you go. You can have chocolate pie. Let's move this bowl. You can have chocolate pie. Everybody gets chocolate pie. You don't get chocolate pie. Thank you very much. Cheeky firefly. And you get chocolate pie, and you can all have a nice glass of hot cocoa. You're very welcome. God, these guys are so lucky.